beautiful people. My name is Carrie Mays. Welcome to this episode of Artdacity, a creative entrepreneur building the table discussion. So this episode was produced by the Boston's Arts and Music Soul, also known as BAMS Fest. Artdacity is a conversational style series that explores the intersections of the arts, civic engagement, and the lived experiences between Black and Brown creative entrepreneurs and communities at large. I just want to say before we get into this process and this discussion with these amazing panelists, thank you to our sponsors, Amazon and the Boston Cultural Council. And so, yeah, let's get into it. So once again, my name is Carrie Mays. I will be the facilitator and moderator of today's episode with Artdacity. I am a youth activist in the community. I have been working alongside an organization called Teen Empowerment for over 7 years. I am 21 years old. I was one of the young people that helped organize the biggest Black Lives Matter protest for George Floyd in Boston. Also, along with Teen Empowerment, we have created and organized this movement out of our organization called Gang Gang Votes to creatively educate the community on civic engagement. And we registered over 375 people to vote in less than the span of a month during COVID, during the presidential election. Thank you. And as of now, I still work with Teen Empowerment, but now I am also working with King Boston on the Reparations Initiative and the New Democracy Coalition as their reparations community engagement coordinator. So that's a little bit about me. There's a lot more, but fun fact about me, I'm the oldest of 7 siblings. I've had a bunny and a squirrel as a pet. So now I'm going to get into our wonderful panelists and who they are. So on scene, we have Danielle Callahan. He is a multidisciplinary artist and designer, a multimedia artist, filmmaker, and he merges various disciplines, including painting, digital photography, film, music, writing, and performances that seek to create immersive experiences incorporating people's stories, ritual, and the human form to explore aspects of human resilience. He is a graduate of the UPenn School of Design and Emerson College, where he received an MFA in film and video. Daniel is a recipient of the Donor Circle for the Arts, the NEFA Creative City Grant, and the Transformative Public Art Grant. He also serves as the president of the Roxbury Cultural District. His work has been featured in the Museum of Fine Arts, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and the Institute of Contemporary Art, the Queens Museum, the New Orleans Museum. I mean, I can go on. This is very impressive. You name it. And such of his publications have been in the Boston Globe, the Bay State Banner, the Smithsonian, and Words in Beats, the Global Journal of Hip Hop Culture. So I am in front of some amazing giants right now. Our next panelist is Ayana Mack. She is the visual artist and the director of marketing. She is the Boston-based visual artist, graphic designer, and entrepreneur. Ayana Mack has been honored and honing in her skills of the creative community for over a decade. Wow. An OG in this work for real. Mack's artist inspiration is rooted in personal experiences, Black culture, self-love, yes, ashe, and belief in inspiring others through her artwork. Her use of vibrant colors, line work, and expressions of Black women within her work exhibit power and softness in unison. In 2020, Mack was an honoree for the Black Excellence on the Hill, celebrating her contribution to the arts in the Commonwealth. She has also been featured as an artist in the Boston Art Review magazine, a creative entrepreneur fellow for the Arts and Business Council, and a board member for both the American Institute of Graphic Arts and the Arts and Business Council of Greater Boston. Wow. Welcome. I am honored to be in the presence of such trailblazing leaders. And so now let's get into our warm-up questions. So Um, don't all scream at once now. But
Man, thank you for the intro. That was awesome.
no problem.
I feel great about myself
We're
right now.
impressive. We're really impressive right now. Like, what is this?
This is Black excellence, regurgitating amongst each other. We feel
Mm.
the energy, with each other. So I'm so glad that to be in the space with you all. So let's get into our warm-up question. Apple juice or orange juice?
Ooh.
This is the greatest debate of the century.
I feel like right now it's orange juice. Do I have to tell you why? Like,
Why?
honestly, I don't know. It's refreshing. It's exciting. It's a good wake up drink. Orange juice. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go with the other option. I'm gonna have to go with apple juice.
Boo.
The main reason is we are in autumn. We are in fall season. The apples are like perfect right now. You add a little cinnamon to the apple juice. Maybe even warm that up. It's like a cider. It's versatile. It's delicious. Apple
You got a
juice.
point. You got
Yeah.
a point.
That was good. That was good.
I'm gonna have to be the tiebreaker, and I'm gonna have to say apple juice.
Hey.
Fine. Fine. This is how we're going to start. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I'm ready. I'm ready for
Uh,
anything.
Don't worry. I love some orange juice though, especially in the morning with some breakfast. It's
Yes.
unbeatable. Okay. So thank you for answering the warm up question. So now we're gonna get into some of the work that you all do. Our second question is, as a creative and as an entrepreneur, what are your top 3 values for how you do business? So I'm going to take Ayana first because she
I'm
seems
ready.
to answer, and then I'll take
Um, Cool. So I would say my top 3 values are trust and respect, making that one, consistency and authenticity.
nice.
powerful.
All right. I think my three would be excellence, autonomy, and integrity.
Okay.
Mm, wow, those are some powerful values to lead with. Our third question is,
Oh wait, hold on, Karen.
go
What
ahead.
you got? What are your three?
This
Oh, what
is
is my three?
Yeah.
I think my 3 is a combination of both of your threes.
smart. You're real smart, Carrie. You're real smart.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Ayana, you're real smart because you broke the rules, but you know what? That's what this is all about. Because who goes by the book anymore, especially as creative artists and
Mm,
business entrepreneurs? You have to create your own rules. So I like what you did there.
that's real.
So yeah, I think mine's would be, it's not very traditional, but love,
Mm,
um, integrity, radical integrity,
mm,
and respect.
yeah.
Mm.
There's definitely way more values, but I would say integrity, love, and respect. So thank you for wanting to know my answers. I appreciate y'all. So our next question is, what were the no's, like the absolute no's, that
Mm.
fueled your entrepreneurial spirit?
Mm.
There's
And
been a
who
lot of no's. There's been a lot of no's. I think I had a couple of experiences, but I can say I don't know if it's a no. Here I go again, switching it up. I had a situation where I was working with a client, and there wasn't a lot of clarity in the contract early in my career, and we got into a almost like a disagreement around like what was supposed to be given, what they wanted, and I remember the client had dealt with me in a way that was unprofessional, and it was hard at first because I was very new with it, and I ended up walking away from that like I'm gonna make sure that my contracts are tight. I'm gonna make sure that I'm very clear about what I need to do. So I would say something like that fueled me to really make sure like my administrative things were together, my contracts, so that I wouldn't be in a place like that. So I would say that experience fueled me to just tighten things up. Even as a younger entrepreneur, those things have kind of set me up for the place that I'm in right now. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a tough question. Can you rephrase the question again?
I got you. I got you. So what were the no's? Or let's just say, what were some of the epiphanal moments? So a moment that was like a revelation or an epiphany to you,
Mm,
that fueled your entrepreneurial spirit. And has that helped you form this out of the box, non traditional approach in creating your businesses? And if
okay.
I you want to add on, feel free to chime in
Mhm.
after.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I think what had me thinking or tripped up at first was like the no's. Um, the yeses are really what propel me. The no's, can be draining. But I will say one of the biggest epiphany moments for me is learning to not say no to myself. I think a lot of the limits in my own life have been self-imposed, thinking that I can't, or thinking that I'm not smart enough or I'm not good enough, and really like building my confidence to say, I may or may not be able to get this done, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take my shot. I'm gonna set myself up to be successful, and we'll see what comes. But if I don't do that, then I'll never get where I want. So I think overcoming the internal no's has been really important for me.
Ayana, would you like to chime in?
The internal knows. I mean, we could talk about that for like an hour. I think like just thinking about that, I feel like when I'm met with certain projects or things I haven't done before, my first instinct is like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. I'm not, I'm not qualified, right? And I have recently ran into that last year when I was offered a project. And I remember one of the things I do is I have like a network of really close people that if something comes up that I don't feel like I'm qualified for, I have people I can go to Danielle or I can go to Carrie and I can be like, yo, and it's not even like on nothing cute. It's literally like, tell me what you really think. Who, how do you feel about this group, or even like my skill set? Like, am I qualified for this? Because often like the people that are around you that have worked with you or watch you grow, they can speak to you differently,
Mm,
and I think that's kind of helped me move into a newer space. Like I remember calling a friend and he was like, why wouldn't you be the director of marketing? I was like, but I never did it before and da da da. And you learn along the way. But I think there were so many people who were like, nah, you've been in these spaces. You've done this before in a different way. You just have to almost gather your information and you might have to work harder to get to that end goal, but you could do it. And it does sometimes take that like conversation or conversations with folks to get you to that point, because you're not just the way like we're set up, life is set up, like it's it's easy to be like, nah, I can't do that, or I'm too scared, I'm gonna fail. And most of the time you actually don't end up failing. You either learn from it, um you learn from it. Yeah.
absolutely. I would also say another no that's been really important is saying no to opportunities that aren't mission aligned or aren't vision aligned.
Mm,
Yeah.
Like that's something I'm like just stepping into now, is like,
Mhm.
I can't do everything, and I wouldn't want to do everything because then I wouldn't do it well. So what are the things that really make sense to me, and what are things that may sound like good, but are not feeding what I'm really trying to accomplish, and having the courage to say no. I think we often, as black entrepreneurs, as black artists, we get asked to do a lot, and you know you want to be helpful, especially when it comes to your community. Like, you want to be there, you want to show up, but at the same time you have to guard your energies, and make sure that yeah, like you're giving fully to the things that you're doing, and you're not being pulled 100 directions and not end up not going anywhere. So the power of no is something I'm learning as well.
wow. I just want to hop on Ayana's point, and I appreciate that sentiment, Daniel, because it's so important in this work how to exercise self care,
Mm,
how to exercise your professional boundaries. So,
mm,
something that I have, I found myself in a place of excessive exhaustion and being drained because I didn't know how to say no.
Mm.
And especially as Black people, they don't teach us how to say no, or how to exercise our rights, how to exercise our freedoms, our boundaries, our autonomy. And so, um, you know, it got to a point where, when, even if you want to go, 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 your body will tell you to stop
Yeah.
in different ways. And so I created, or I had to establish, what does professional boundaries look like, especially in the business world. We talk about self-care, we talk about mental, emotional, and spiritual, and how we interact with our friends and toxic family members, but what about the business world?
Yeah.
Mm.
So one, a boundary that I created for myself professionally, a professional boundary, is I don't work on weekends unless I want to. Like all of the organizations and companies that I've worked with, I've let them know, hey, listen, I don't work on weekends, unless, I mean, if you want to present some extra hours, for volunteer, I'll think about it, but I can't work on weekends. So I think that was an epiphany for me. And on your point, Ayana, as a Black woman, we're always told that we're not qualified to do the job, but yet we're training people in positions that will never get promoted to.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, and that's my, so I've definitely felt that insecurity, that internalized insecurity, as a Black woman, and not feeling like I'm qualified to do the job.
Mhm.
So I feel you. I feel you both, all the way. So now we're gonna get into, now that we talked about autonomy, we talked about freedom, we talked about boundaries, we talked about what it means to say no, what it means to be qualified. Our next question gets into, what does freedom look like in your role, as a creator, and has this freedom in owning your creative businesses affected your relationship with customers and other stakeholders? I know, let it marinate. I know that was a hard question.
I'm over here like, okay, it's two parts to this. I gotta let it soak in. I think I got the first part, but I'm like, um,
You want me
freedom.
to start, Ayana?
Yep, you start. You look
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Maybe
All
you
right.
go.
So yeah, one of my principles I outlined was autonomy, and I see freedom and autonomy being very similar. Um, freedom to me means that I can make my own decisions, that I'm self-defined, and that I'm self-powered. It doesn't mean that I do believe we are interdependent. It doesn't mean that I'm like an island, or that I don't need community, or I don't need support. But it just means that I am not beholden to anyone in terms of uh, my own life. And I think what that means, I guess, in terms of business is, sometimes that means, you know, I think it's interesting. We talk about this word success a lot, right? And everybody wants to be successful, but rarely is success defined. And I
Mhm.
think because of that, people often are chasing success, someone else's notion of success, and not their own. And I for one was doing that for a while until I realized, like, I actually can define this for myself. I can tell myself what success looks like, and like I don't need to compare myself to other people's success.
Mhm.
And I think through that, I did gain a great amount of freedom, because I can design my own life, where I'm not just trying to check boxes off. I'm trying to realize what is the environment, lifestyle, feeling, that I want to have, and be willing to uh, either say no or be willing to miss out on certain things for that. Like, like there is sacrifice sometimes to be free. And that means that, like, you may not be living how you thought you'd be living, but you have control of your life, like, and if that's your biggest thing, then you got to be willing to take what comes with that. So sometimes that means not making as much money. Sometimes that means not going out as much. Sometimes that means working when you don't want to work. But the idea is that I'm living a life that I've designed, that works with my own values. The values that I've learned in life are real to me, and living fully out of that.
Wow. I just, I mean, I don't even think I should answer at this point. I feel like Daniel has answered for everyone in the world right now. So yeah. No, I'm kidding. I was literally taking notes. Before I answer, you had mentioned something about like someone's notion of success, and I thought that was so important because for me, like when I was a younger designer, I was telling my cousin this the other day, you know, I wanted to work at these companies, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Adobe, and I wanted like my big dream, well, way back was to be a fashion designer, but at one point, and still do somewhere inside, want to be a package designer.
Mm.
And I remember feeling like if I work in these places, then I'm going to be this thing or I'll be successful. And as I, you know, grew with my business and developed it, that idea of success is totally different now. And I'm so happy you mentioned it because I've now been on teams with people. I've led multiple projects. I have roles of senior and director, and it's really it's a lot of work. It's beautiful. And you know, I'm so grateful for the opportunities, but I also recognize that you know their titles and so much comes with it, and
Mm.
a lot of people I feel like they attach so much to the title and don't understand what's behind it and believe that it's success if this is my title. And over the last couple of years I moved away from that of like, well, that's great, but I've now been on the other side of it, and I know that it can be a headache. It's a lot of
Mm.
administrative work.
Mm.
It's almost further away from being the creator, being the person on the ground in Photoshop, in Illustrator. Like you're coordinating so much. So I would say like when you move away from that and you are able to define success for yourself, then I feel like it is really powerful, like super powerful.
Yes, yes. I think that makes me think about. So I also used to work for the Boston Women's Fund as a youth leader, and one of the things that we studied is because the Boston Women's Fund is a philanthropy organization for women and Women Plus, is studying not to perpetuate the same harmful philanthropic practices. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is making sure that the money that you're getting for your organization is aligned with your values and your mission. We talked about the concept of dirty money, right? I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because I always say that integrity gets lost in the negotiation of business deals or in those business rooms. A lot of time, a lot of people's value gets compromised through a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think in the reparations conversation, one of the biggest values is self determination and autonomy and the freedom to do what you want, and not to be bound by these circumstances. And so, making sure that whatever wants to be in alignment with you, whatever wants to be associated with your brand or your business, is truly aligned with your values, is truly aligned with who you are as a person, and respecting you and respecting your value. And sometimes that has to come to the dollar, because if you're trying to compromise my value and what I bring to the table beyond what you think I'm worth, and you're giving me, you say 20%, and you're getting the majority. See, don't get me started now. But
Break it down. Break it down.
but yes, I totally agree with not getting attached to label names and positions and hierarchies. What does that mean? But creating what the definition of success and freedom looks like for yourself. Um, and speaking of which, our next question goes into our soul bowl. And I think we're getting into the soul of the conversation, quite honestly. And so, our soul bowl, I guess my question for you all is, it's two. So, the first question is, what is one of the biggest challenges you face in the entrepreneurial space or business world? And what do you use to empower or heal those challenges that you've been through? Say if it's a microaggression, what do you use to empower yourself to heal yourself from that? And then the second one is about, what do you do for self-care?
Challenges and healing. Uh, well, I don't even know where to start. I have a lot of those. Um, I think I worked on a bunch of different projects, a lot of overlapping this year and previously. And I would say some of the challenges are being in spaces where it doesn't flow as beautifully as you may think, right? On the back end, there are disagreements. Maybe someone doesn't respect someone. Like it's the stuff you see on TV that actually happens in real life in these boardrooms and in these spaces. And I've been met with um, a lot of big personalities and big egos and all of that. And I am a collaborative person. Like I like to work with people. I actually thrive in environments where we can work together. Like, you know, yes, I thrive in environments where we can work together. So when I'm not in a space like that, it's super challenging for me to even like be in the space. So it's hard for me to show up as Ayana, the director, the designer, or the creative person, because now I'm thinking about like, there's so much energy or so much in the space. And that's been a huge challenge for me this year. And I've had to accept the type of person that I am. I've had to lean into the fact that I am the empathetic, collaborative person I'm not I'm not about to scream at you on a Zoom call. I'm probably not about to ever scream at you. Like that's not ever for the professional space for me. And so I think, the challenge with that is really having to accept who I am, but also back to that support, right? Like having the support of the people around me who I will scream, but not in front, that's not the space for it. I'll save that for people who can understand and who can support me and who can help me walk through it. So I would say I run into challenges in spaces like that. I've had to learn how to accept myself, the way that I operate, and see the power in that, because there is a lot of power in being able to take a step back and not react, and continue to be professional and do what you need to do and get the work done, while unpacking in the background. So I do a lot of unpacking in the background, and it shows up in the work that I do and the teams that I run and all of that. So
Did you answer the self-care one?
nope.
Do you want me to go, or do you want to take that one too?
I can jump in.
Okay.
My self care, as you can see, this is my home. This is my kitchen. I love hot yoga. I love to turn my phone off. There's a lot of different things happen at different points in my life. So like I was sharing, I have a lot of overlapping projects. So when those periods of time come, my care changes. So like if there's a month where I'm working, like the month coming up, I have projects and photos and videos and back to back to back to back, November, December. And I know that means I might not be able to cook for 3 hours in the kitchen like I enjoy doing. So I might need to order food or order juices from the homegirl down the street, or, you know what I'm saying? Like that stuff, the way that I care for myself, the way that I eat, the things that I do change depending on like the season or the project. But I would say turning off my phone was like a revolutionary act for myself. Like I was like, wow, I'm unavailable. And I have an iPad. So if it's an emergency, my mom or my nephew or my brother could like FaceTime me. But that's like the most access you're going to get to me. And I'm not quick to jump in emails and jump at a text message. Like it might take a couple of days for me to text you back. Don't be offended. Because it's just a lot of stuff happening. So I've set these very, for me, they're a little intense boundaries, but they've been so helpful because I've been able to breathe a little bit, and honor like my space and what I need for myself in that moment. Like I promise you, the email's still gonna be there on Monday. The project's it's not going anywhere. I promise. It's still gonna be there. It's still gonna be urgent with the little exclamation point in red in Outlook. But I mean, I need to care for myself in order to put out all the things to other people. So yes.
For sure, for sure. I'm not there yet where I've turned my phone off. That's like another level. I'm trying to get there. I do put my phone on silent though. That's
Okay.
like that's my baby step.
Yes.
Uh, um, So I'll start with the self care because I honestly forget the other question. The self care I will start with, and then maybe you can remind me what the other question is. So the self care is huge. Several things that I've learned to do. One is that I don't wake up with alarms. So and that requires like um, I don't get up super early. And that was something that I always hated doing, going to school. It never felt right to me. And I was always secretly worried about it because it's like, you always hear people talking about like, oh yeah, I get up at 4 a.m., I get up at 5 a.m. And it's like, oh man, if I'm not doing that, then am I gonna, but I think it's really just like, okay, what are my working hours? I like working late. I like working late into the night. So I usually go to bed on a later side, which means I wake up on a later side. So I make sure to get a good amount of sleep, and I'll just let people know, like I'm not available like early in the morning for meetings. I'm not available, until when I get up, naturally, without an alarm. So that's been big. Another thing that's been big for me too is walks, like nature walks, hikes, etc. Getting out in nature. That's become like one of the most important things for me. Like that's like everything is being able to get to a place where I don't see man-made objects or human-made objects, I should say. And I'm just seeing, I'm with the earth. That is just a huge recharge for me. Um, and the other biggest thing is relationships, kind of like what you were saying, Ayana, like um, making sure that I am maintaining and growing like good relationships. Um, Relationships are the most important thing in my life for sure, hands down. And so like making sure I'm putting into those, and also that I'm going to those when I need to be put into, is big for my self care. Um, and then yeah, can you remind me the first portion of that question?
I got you. I got you. So basically, what is one of the biggest challenges that you faced in the entrepreneurial or realm or the business realm? And what have you done to empower yourself to heal that?
Yeah. Um, Again, sort of like a self perception, but also something that's been taught to me is like this divide we have as artists where we think art is just, doing, being creative, and it's not in like selling work or marketing the work or, like, doing all the business stuff, setting up, an LLC, or, getting your legal in order, or like, like Anna, you were saying, contracts and stuff like that. Like, all that stuff is hard, and it's like tedious, but that is part of being an artist. That is part of being an entrepreneur. You can't just take the sexy parts and leave the non-sexy parts. And I think that's been a real challenge for me is managing that, and because I've been sort of taught that like, oh, if I'm an artist, I can just create all day. Like I should be able to create all day. And I think in an ideal world that is the case. I do think that like as artists, we're asked to do everything except our art. Like as an artist, you have to be a lawyer. You have to be, you know what I mean? You have to be an accountant. You have to be a doctor. You have to be like all these things, to take care of your practice. And unfortunately, in America, we don't have a system of support for artists. In other places, it's actually not like this. Like there are like public funds that go to help artists and support artists that are on the national and the state level. We don't have that here, and so you know, artists are asked a lot, too much probably. But at the same time, artists also have to recognize that like it is more than just being a creative. You really do have to put on that other hat, and that's been a challenge for me, but one that I'm sort of growing into.
Wow. Wow. I, you know, how do you feel about outsourcing those non-sexy parts of the business?
Absolutely. And Ayan, I'm sure you can talk about this too, but
Yes.
like it as soon as you can. But
Yeah.
the issue is that like, outsourcing requires money oftentimes. If you want to have some things done professionally and consistently, and when you're talking about accounting, you can't just get your uncle and them, like like even if they want to help, like you really want to be talking with somebody when it comes to like money and like legal stuff. Like you really need to have somebody who's like who's qualified, you know, because you can get in some really sticky situations otherwise. So, you know, when you don't have that budget, you do need to invest in learning some legalese. You know, even if you do have a lawyer, you know, you want to make sure that they're doing their job, right? And you want to make sure that you're not getting stiffed, you know, like which happens to us all the time, you know, especially black folk. Like
Mm,
everyone thinks we, you know, so like you have to know what is around that job to make sure that you can manage somebody. And even if somebody's, you know, willing to do it for free, like say, you know, oh, I'll help you with your social media. That's awesome. You can't just expect they're going to do everything for you. You gotta know what that means. You know, you got to be able to give them content. You got to be able to like do your part. So yes to outsourcing as soon as you can. If you have $5 and you can pay someone $1 to do something, pay them two and split that in half. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're only one person. Um, but I understand that also is not always possible. You know, so
mm,
Yeah. Yeah, I like 1,000% agree with that. I'm like laughing at you because yeah, I mean, I'm in that position where like I've been doing this for like 12 years between designing and like vending and the way that I have my business set up is I have so many moving parts, right? So
hmm
I'm doing the art, I'm doing the design, and I'm selling and all of that. And I just reached a point over the last year or two where I started to outsource. So I have an assistant and a social media manager, and now I'm a photographer and now a videographer, and like I'm building out this team. And it was like this big aha moment when I hired the first
mm,
person, and I was like, "Yo, what was I doing this whole entire time?" Like I was so mad because I was like, "So you're telling me I ain't even have to answer all my emails like that? Like this is crazy. What am I doing?" So it was that, but it was the other part. Like it's cute. It's not sexy right now. It's not. It's
mm,
a lot when you're onboarding people. It's a lot
mm,
when I go back to authenticity and I talk about how I ran this for so long and I want my voice to be a part of it. When you start pulling in other people, you really want to make sure that they have a similar voice, that they're collaborative, that they're easy to work with. And that can be really challenging to find. So I recommend doing like a trial period with people,
mm,
and just being very clear on like your synergy and your energy with that person. Um, but back to what you were saying, Daniel, about being able to do these things on your own. So all of the stuff that I'm hiring people for, I did on my own for
hmm
years,
mm,
right? So say all of a sudden my team was like, we don't want to work anymore. I could do my emails, I can do my social media strategy, I
mm,
can update my website, I can do my design. So if anything crazy happened, I always am able, I'm my backup, right?
hmm
And
mm,
that's one thing I would say as an entrepreneur is like you don't it's great when you can outsource, but you always want to be able to know what someone's doing, especially because you don't want to get played. Like,
right.
and there's so many
mm.
people out here playing you. So like I can go to somebody for this thing, but I'm also like, nah, I know it don't cost that much to build that website.
hmm
So, you do have to be really smart. And I think for the people who don't have the money, like again, I'm just at a point where I started doing this. So what I did was tapped into the resources that are around me, the free workshops, because there are plenty
hmm
of them out here. You just need to look for them. And a
hmm
lot of times we don't want to look for them. We want it to just magically appear in front of us. And the some of the spots I've taken workshops that have been like the Fairmount Innovation Lab,
hmm
Arts and Business Council, AIGA. We're doing, not going to do a major plug, but like a creative toolkit series for entrepreneurs. So there are a lot of things out here, and they could, like, I think the most I've paid for some of these has been like $5 to $50, trying to figure out if I want to be an LLC or S corp or whatever. So I would say, if you're in that space, to definitely like do the research, spend the time doing it, and use the resources that are around you. If you get to a point where you can outsource, make sure you know how to do the thing before you hire somebody for it, or at least have an understanding so you don't get played in the process.
Mm. That was $1 million gem that you just said. You said that before you outsource, make sure you know how to do that skill
Yeah.
yourself. And I think, and that's why for me, I'm a college student. I am going. My major is business management with a concentration in marketing.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, why don't you do politics?" And you're always in the political and civic engagement realm and social justice and the criminal justice field. And I tell people, well, that's my life as a Black person.
Mm-hmm.
I took the political science class, and I felt like they were just describing my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is there that you or that I don't know about systemic racism, equity, disparities, about how the laws and policies are rigged. And so I remember I took a Fisher College dual enrollment course, and I was in the criminal justice class. They had placed me in there because I was an activist. But my heart is really with business, and it's still with activism as well. I like to call myself an artivist, which is art, and activism coming together.
Yeah.
Um, and I say I'm an artist at soul, but an activist at heart. And so I think I left that class, and I remember I wasn't supposed to leave the class, but I went upstairs to the business class, and he said, "Oh, you saw the light." My professor said, "Ah, you saw the light." And the reason why I'm taking business is because once you understand the fundamentals of a business, you understand everything, because everything is a business.
Mm,
Politics is a business. Whether
mm,
you're running your own brand, that's a business. You're running your campaign. You're running, you're an artist. You're running your own brand, whether that's music or record label companies. I mean, all of it is business. So once you understand the fundamentals of a business, and the fact that this country was started on the base of really the economics,
mm-hmm.
right? Slavery was
Yeah.
very inevitably tied to economics because we were seen as the source of currency.
Yep.
um that is where I discovered my love for business, and I think it also originated from learning about Black Wall Street. When I was
Mm-hmm.
in high school, I learned about Black Wall Street, and it just fueled. I didn't know that there were people that looked like me, that can execute such superior intellectual skills, because all they were teaching was the inferior parts of our history.
Mm,
So I was like, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. So yeah, I just want to. There's something that you said about your energy, protecting your energy, Ayana.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something about like reserving your energy, but also being able to rely on those support systems. And I have something that I'm about to put on my wall that says observe, don't absorb. And that is,
mm,
and being rooted in nature. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm an earth sign, so I love nature. But observe, don't absorb. I think that is beautiful. And it makes me think about like principles. You have to have a deep sense of connection and check in with yourself to be able to have that self control. So it brings me to the question about values. You guys had some beautiful values that you lead when it comes to um, leading your businesses. Like, you guys hold these values in place. So I kind of want you guys to elaborate. What made you come to those values? Why did you pick those values to be a part of what makes you lead your business?
I can say for me, authenticity as a first one is really important because I I hit a lot of different walls over the last couple of years of like, who am I as an artist and what should I be making and what should I be selling? And when I started, a lot of people were like, oh, you should do abstract. Oh, you should do families. Oh, you should do images of men. And I love all of them. But I realized those things weren't, driving what I did. And uh, I got to a point probably 2 years ago where I realized that I really enjoyed drawing images, painting images, or creating images of Black women because I can identify with that. I think a lot of about emotions and vulnerability and femininity, and my work is a direct connection to who I am, what I'm going through. So there's this whole entire process that is involved in me creating work, and it's important. It was important for me to identify that because when I was like, I'm painting Black women, I'm creating them for this reason, it was like my work skyrocketed, right? Similarly, as a designer, when I moved away from trying to do everything, right? Like I can create a website, but I just rather not. Like I don't feel like it. So I'm gonna do what I enjoy, which is like brand development, strategy, back end like user experience and all that. And when I was able to identify and hone in on that, things just shifted for me. Um, Around consistency, trust, and respect, I feel like being consistent over however 10 plus years has allowed me to have the not just the success, but also the relationships, the connection to community, the people that I know. That consistency has allowed all of these things to happen. Trust and respect, just foundational. Like I'm going to do things, the way that I want to be treated is what I'm going to put out. So yeah, all of those things contribute to like who I am. So those are deeply rooted within me, and important in my business and brand and all the things involved with the content that I put out to people. So, wow, your faces.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is good, man. I'm
That
glad
was
we're recording this. I need to get the playback.
I need to run it back. I was like, wow, I think that was good.
Yeah.
It was from the heart. When you forget, you'd be like, I think that was good.
Yeah, man. Okay, so first I want to shout out that quote,
Mhm.
observe, don't absorb.
Yeah,
That is so important.
yeah.
Um, especially with what you were saying in terms of like studying business, because it's like um yeah, business in this country has capitalism has always been linked with slavery, right? Like that's as American as apple pie, as they say, right? And so like, how do you study this machine that literally enslaved your ancestors,
Mm.
but that you live in, right? So you have to come up with a relationship to this system that where you can survive, right? Because you owe that to your ancestors, but also you don't want to contribute to that same energy that turn them into cattle, right? Like so that is really important that you learn the mechanism, but you don't absorb the evilness behind it, and that's so key. So I definitely appreciate that quote. And in terms of my uh what did I say? I said integrity, excellence, and autonomy, right? So um excellence, mainly because that's just what inspires me. When I see things that are done in an excellent way, it just inspires me. It gives me like wonder. It makes me excited about living in this earth, like it makes me yeah. So like I just love that. And so it's my like sincere attempt to make something like that for somebody else, where it's like, oh yeah, there it is, yes, yes, all day, all day. So like, if I can create that experience for somebody else, then like I'm good. I'm so happy. And even if I can, I'm gonna keep working towards it. So the other one is integrity. um yeah, and to me that's just like having a drive towards the truth, like how do you truly feel, speaking out of your own truth, learning your truth. Truth is hard. It's not easy. It's inconvenient. It's but it's so powerful when you can speak from your own truth. And I do think that everyone has their own truth. And I'm just responsible for being true to mine. And so that's what integrity is about. And then for autonomy, I think I already spoke on autonomy, but just again, having that ability to direct yourself to my dad has these 5 things. He says, protect yourself, direct yourself, feed yourself, clothe yourself, house yourself. 5 things that
Woo!
you should be able to do. And so like,
Go, Dad.
yeah, my dad's a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like being able to do those things is really important. I think that feeds to your autonomy. And then once you do have that autonomy, you can then be in a position to be a help of someone else. But if you don't have
Mhm.
those, if you haven't helped yourself, then you really can't help other people. So
Yeah.
Mm, mm. Listen, y'all done took me to church, okay? I mean, all of your responses, and I know this is gonna sound how it's gonna sound, but all of your responses align very much with this revolutionary consciousness,
Mm,
right? Like these are the same values and principles that our ancestors, that the ancestors of Black Wall Street and the Black Panthers and in the Black Renaissance era carried with themselves, where they were able to execute these principles of values without perpetuating the same ills of the system that harmed them. So I think for me, my principles of love, because once you realize love is the answer to liberating yourself, um, to the liberation of our
mm,
people. And I believe James Baldwin said it, if I'm not correct. um, Love has always been a dangerous movement. It's always been one of the hardest movements, because you're promoting love in a world that fuels and that capitalizes, literally profits and survives off of hate.
mm,
So how do you promote love in a world full of hate? That means that's a dangerous game. And so but our existence and and what we do in ourselves will always be seen as dangerous, or will always be seen as aggressive, or won't be accepted. But how, like you said, Daniel, how do we accept ourselves, beyond other people's interpretations and perceptions of us? So I think that is, your values are so beautiful. Integrity, I'm reading a book right now, I'm reading Asata Shakur's book.
mm,
And Asada Shakur, one of the biggest things that inspired me about Asada Shakur is her deep commitment to herself. There were parts in the book where I had to put it down for a second, because it's very much a traumatic experience that she went through. But even in her most traumatic experiences, where institutional and all of these forces were pressuring her to say certain information that was sacred to our community, she would not give it up.
mm,
I mean, this woman was almost beaten to death and still kept her radical integrity about herself. And the definition of integrity is not just about doing the right thing, but a lot of people don't know that the definition of integrity also encompasses being true to yourself, and knowing who you are. And I really appreciate you, Ayana, and how you allow yourself to show up in the space and say, I'm going to be who I am. And so I I just think this is the jackpot right here. I need them to cut that snippet of you, Ayana, talking about how to do certain things and making sure you know how to do it yourself, and that it's for free. There's resources out here, right? Like, I think every entrepreneur needs that clip of you saying, or that snippet of you saying, look, there's resources out here. Learn how to be your own beast. You know what I mean? Like your dad, Daniel. um and so now we're going to get into a very interesting part of the conversation, where you guys get to ask me questions, or you guys get to ask questions to each other.
word.
Um, well, I have a question for all of you guys. One of the things I've noticed, even so, like when I went to like Boston Arts Academy and then went to Suffolk University for college, and I noticed the people, a lot of the younger people at that time, they were like going to New York and California and all these other places for the culture and like certain things, and wondering what has kept you in Boston in the creative space or the artivism space or media, whatever. Like, what's kept you here to continue to do the work you're doing? I can start, or pop it. I should. Daniel was like, "You should start." um, I I share this with a lot of people. Like, you know, born and raised here. I've been in Mattapan for over 20 years. Yes, over 20 years. And one of the things that's kept me here is there's a lot of work to do, right? There's
Mhm.
there's the most simple way I put it, and when I talk to people about it, is like, why does the art in like downtown or the Seaport look different from the art in Mattapan or in
Mm,
Mattapan, Dorchester, and Roxbury? And back in like 2011, I started a thesis that was about how to use art as a tool to create change in Black communities, and um, that is the reason that I decided to stay here. And I think about spaces that we're a part of, and some of us, it's exciting to just sell artwork, and maybe that's just the thing we do, or we create, or we do murals. And it's all very powerful work, and it contributes to the ecosystem, the creative ecosystem in Boston. But what does it look like for us to be in these rooms and these spaces where decisions are being made? And when I started selling art and sharing it, it was something that was really exciting. Like, it was great. I was like, oh my gosh, people are buying my stuff. And then over years, it started to shift, and I was like, oh wow, like, why does this art look different? Who's at the table? Who's making the decisions? So I think ultimately it's like, what does it look like to shift things, this system, right, of who's in these spaces and who owns these galleries, and what does access for Black artists or creative people look like in the city of Boston? So that is why I am here to make that shift. And the other thing too is, a lot of my friends who have left, they've ended up coming back. And what they've shared with me is that it was kind of wild for them to be in like California or Chicago, changing their communities, but their hometown wasn't where it needed to be.
mm,
So a couple of people I shared that with me. That was one of their big reasons for coming back to the city. So I'm interested in like what keeps you guys here, like, and maybe do you want to leave? And yeah, you can jump into that.
can I just say I'm thankful that you chose to stay here?
Yeah, thank you.
But go on, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm also thankful that you're here. Um, I think I'm here because I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, because I sometimes I don't understand,
Mhm.
and sometimes I understand very deeply.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, like I I grew up kind of nomadic. We moved around a lot when I was young. So lived in Medford, lived in Cambridge, lived in Roxbury, I now live in JP. And I also have lived out in California and Philly. Um, but my path just led me here. And even at times because there were times definitely that I wanted to leave Boston for sure. And I did leave Boston, but my path led me back here at this particular moment. And I trust my path. So I will be here for as long as my path tells me to be here. And that's why I'm here. And I think what I'm realizing in being here is that um, Boston is primed for a sort of a new way of being, and I look and see just how many Black and brown folks are elevating to positions of power in this city, and looking how infrastructures are being built, pipelines are being assembled, you know. Um, Business from the business sector all the way to the creative sector, all the way to to education, to whatever sector you want to talk about. Like, we're out here, like, and it's a beautiful time to be in Boston. And so I'm thankful that my path has led me here. And I'm just wanting to do everything that I can to be a part of that, and also to support it, and to get support from it too. I think another thing that's been really surprising and heartwarming has been the amount of support that I've gotten here in Boston. And yeah, like I think people don't talk about that enough. Like, our community really does support people, and like, Boston has a bad rep, and deservedly so, for the racism and segregation and inequity, but we have a very strong community here that does support, and that's a beautiful thing. That's sustained me. That's what I'm hoping to give back to for as long as I'm here, because that was important for my development.
Yes, I'm also happy that you chose to stay as well. I also, so this summer, I've been on 10 flights this summer. I went to Miami for a national youth activist convention. I went to Philly. I went to California. So I've been all over the place. And it still brought me back home. When I came back home, not to, and I loved Philly. I loved, LA. I loved Florida. My family's from Alabama. I
Mm.
also went there to visit them. But what there's a saying in Sankofa. Sankofa is an African ancestral um, value or concept. And so Sankofa basically says, in order to go forward, you have to go back. And I think like I'm seeing this pattern within, or the similarity that's dope between both of your responses is like, I had to bring myself back, because when you bring yourself back, you're able to reground yourself, you're able to be rooted. And so I think for me, everybody's like, you got to get out of Boston, Carrie. You need to get out of Boston, and I don't mind getting out of Boston, but I think that we need to deconstruct this ideology that, once we make it out the hood, we never come back to the hood, or we never give back to the hood. I think there's like this trauma bond, or this traumatic abandonment process that we go through when we make it out the hood, where we forget about the hood, we forget about where we come from. Unless you come from one of those major cities that are recognized within that artist's name or skill set. But I think for me, what keeps me here is I have a duty to this community. This community has helped raise me, even down to the artist infrastructure, my environment, walking down the street and seeing Malcolm X murals that I didn't know was subliminally or unconsciously empowering me, right? Walking past Martin Luther King murals, and just so many powerful aspects of this city, the elders, the young people, especially working with teen empowerment. I value the talent that's here. Teen Empowerment has a part of the section of the organization called Teen Empowerment Studios, where we hire young people from the community to use their art to push for positive social change, or as a platform for positive social change. So they're making socially conscious art that addresses the issues. And working with them, I was a part of. We just did a movie called Senseless Smoke, and I was one of the lead actresses. It was premiered in
Yes.
AMC theaters all last
Yes.
year.
I saw that.
Thank you. I was
Y'all
Mrs.
killed
G.
it. Yeah.
I was just Mrs. G. You know. Um, and I think that process, or just the Piermont theaters and the peace conferences that we would do, just made me recognize the beauty and the art and the talent that is here. We have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that we uplift the voices of our own communities, to then help inform and collaborate and unify with other communities across the world, across our country, right? So I think that is why I'm here in Boston, why I haven't left. But I do plan on building, you know, infrastructures and ecosystems and environments beyond Boston, right? Like I do want to go to Philly and build with them out there. I do want to go to California and LA and Florida and in Alabama, all of these amazing places, and build with them out there. So this is not just about staying in one spot, but not forgetting where you come from.
Absolutely. What happens like when we stay, right? Like what would happen if all of this talent was super excited and we stayed? And yeah. So
Hmm. Daniel, do you have a question?
um. Yeah, I was just thinking about the question you just asked, Ayana. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think. Let's see. My question for y'all: what is the next step in your own evolution as what you're doing, as who you are? What do you feel like is the next step that you're pushing toward? Who is Ayana 2.0 and who's Carrie 2.0?
How do I answer that? Um, I think as I dig more into back to that authenticity piece, and as I, have my hands in all of these places, the more I do it, the more I start to see myself, right? And I start to be like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I don't like that. I'm not doing that again.
Mm,
And I think as I move through those spaces, I kind of continue to elevate, right? And I think the next stage of me is like, I'm a big thinker, and I mean, like thinking even bigger than that. And I would say I just started to tap into that, right? Like, what
mm,
is, I would have a small, and it wasn't a small idea. It was like this small thing, like, yes, I sell work. Yes, I do this. Yes, I want to paint larger and do all of this stuff. But what does it look like to think even bigger than that, right? Like, what does it look like to impact the city, the state? What does it look like to take those things to other spaces? And like you were saying, Carrie, like learning from them, adding that to what I know, contributing that to my city, but also like starting something different in other spaces. So not just being here, but using all the things that I gather, all the education, all of the learning experiences, and really shifting what arts can look like, not just across the nation, but like across the world, like contributing to that. So that's big. That's real. That's real big. So knowing that's the big thing, like yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot happening, but I think moving in that direction, like not moving away from like this little step, but like what does it look like to almost push myself to this whole different level because I'm qualified and I'm able to do it. It's going to be a
yeah.
lot of work, but it's possible. So, yeah, I hope that answered the
Oh,
question.
absolutely. Yeah. And you may be closer than you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Ayana 2.0 and Carrie 2.0 might have to collab because you too, Daniel. And I hope you know you're gonna answer this question too.
Yes.
Um, I think for me, ooh, I that's a good question. Um, hmm, investing more in myself, unapologetically, because I seen this video and it said, you wake up for that 9 to 5 job. You always woke up early to go to work. You always woke up on other people's accord. But when have you ever woke up to do or invest in yourself or pursue your career, pursue your business, your dreams, and your goals? And so I think for me, is to tap into my full potential. One thing, there's this stigma about being a jack of all trades, right? That you can't get nothing done because your hands are everywhere, your mind, and but there's no problem with being a jack of all trades and being able to cultivate that. Because at one point in time, I'm a multi-dimensional person. I'm a multi-dimensional being. So that means I cannot be fit in one box.
That's right.
So I'm finding myself forcing myself to be to just do one thing, but really I have this love and this deep passion for everything that I'm good at. You know what I mean? I'm not good at everything, but the things that I am good at, it's because I care and I love to do it. So how do I not self compromise myself
Yeah.
to this one dimensional thinking, this one dimensional journey or activity of thinking I only have to do one thing, but also to just self expansion. What does self expansion look like? That I can be a jack of all trades
Mhm.
and jack it up in all those trades. You know what I mean?
That's a quote right there. That's
Yeah.
a quote.
Yeah.
um, so I just want to share a deep sense of gratitude and love, um, for both of you and all that you brought to this conversation. It was revolutionary, it was heartfelt, it was funny, it was, everything. I think it truly captured the essence of what it means to be a Black creative in the economy. And I appreciate you in all of your aspects. right? Because we're all multidimensional beings and forces in this world. And I really appreciate the work that you've done, the work that you have contributed to building these spaces and building yourself. So sadly, we are coming to the time to wrap up, but I did want to share my appreciations to you all. Is there anything that you all want to say?
I want to thank you because you are a powerful young. Like when you said 21, I was like, what? 21? Like that's crazy. So like you, just the way that you talk, like I've never met you before, you know, and learning about what you do and just the way this conversation is flowing, it's really beautiful to like. I'm excited to just keep up with you because you already like boom, 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 like just magic. So really excited for you. And always, I love Daniel. I love like watching your progress and seeing you grow and having your festival and all the things. So like y'all are great. So thank you.
I want to reflect that. Yeah. Carrie, I mean, I've seen you sort of from afar, and I already knew you were on this level, but continue to be just impressed with, yeah, you're the level of maturity at your age, the level of power, the level of ability. Sky is the limit on your potential, and I just love seeing you grow. Yeah, yo, you really need to get your own podcast. I
Yeah.
feel like because I would definitely check that on a daily.
Yeah.
Um, and Ayana, you already know, so much respect for you. I'm calling, asking for coaching sessions from you all the time because you just got it. You got it, and I really appreciate that. I'm glad that I have someone like you in my support in my network. So yeah, this has been great. Oh, and we're being told to plug.
Yeah.
So what plugs y'all got?
Well,
Shout outs.
I have a lot of plugs. So what month are we in? November. I have a couple of events coming up, some vending. So I'll be selling my artwork in November and December. And in December, I'm going to have 3 arts and healing workshops in Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan. So you can jump on my website, hop on my email list, and sign up for that. My website is Ayana Mack, AYANAMACK.co, and all of my social handles are on there as well.
What you got, Carrie? What you got going on?
Okay, okay. So I'll just put out my social media um, platforms out there because there's a whole lot going on, and if I were to go through my calendar, I'm pretty sure I would confuse you as much as I confuse myself. So you can follow me on Facebook. They call me the Facebook Queen. I'm on there all the time. At Carrie Mays, Carrie, last name Mays, Mays. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Melanacious, Melatio. You know what? It's been a long day for me.
Throw it in the chat.
Throw
Throw
it
it
in
in
the
the
chat.
chat.
I'll, I'll,
Write it down.
I will. I'll also give it to Bamfest to tag me in the video
There you
because
go.
Melanacious is my artist name. So you can find me on Melanacious underscore on Instagram, and I'm not on Twitter yet, but I'll get there soon. And Daniel,
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things for me. I just released a new line of prints on my website. And you can find those at danielcallahan.com. That's my website. And also, you can find me on Facebook, Daniel Callahan Art. And then also on Instagram, Daniel P. Callahan. And I have a few shows coming up. I have a show at St. Patov Club in January, and then a show at the Brattleboro Museum in March. And am working on a one-man show around my relationship with hip hop, education, and God that I'm going
Ooh,
to be putting on at
oh,
Emerson
that's
in February. I'm so terrified about that, but also excited. And yeah, that's those are my plugs. Also,
awesome!
I also want to shout out Roxbury Cultural District.
yeah.
RoxburyCulturalDistrict.com. And yeah. Oh, my film too. Come
Yeah,
on in. Come on in is the film, psychological thriller. at comeoninfilm.com.
Yes, yes. I always say that self promotion is a form of self love.
Mm.
You know, you just have to do it. So once again just want to commend this beautiful conversation. You know, this is the final episode of the 2022 season of
Wow.
Artdacity. Like, and this is how you go out with a bang. And I believe they saved the best for the last. I'm just saying,
Hey.
no disrespect to everybody else, but matter of fact, the other episodes and artists and panelists that came on were amazing, by the way. But you know, I appreciate just the Artdacity season. This whole entire season has been awesome. It's been amazing. It's been inspiring and empowering. Um, and so, you know, and I hope you all know this is not the last time that we'll be speaking. Like, we will be in communication and keeping in touch with each other, because I do want to build upon that relationship value that we all share in this communal space. So I definitely want to give a shout out to our sponsors, because this would not be happening without them. Amazon and the Boston Cultural Council, thank you so much. And of course, this would not be happening without BAMFest.
Hey.
Yes, BAMFest. If you've
Damn
never been to
fast.
BAMFest, have you really lived in Boston?
Yeah.
Um, you know, thanking the team of the BAMFest team. And for any upcoming BAMFest events, please visit www.bamfest.org and sign up for our monthly newsletter so you can stay updated on what's going on. We encourage all of you to follow us on our social media platforms at BAMFest so you can keep up with awesome conversations like this. But until the next time, peace, love, and hair grease.
We out.
Love, we out.